Okay, so let's do this. So what we have here is person A, is party A sells to party B. So what happens on this thing is, so in this case, Perez has 18, so Perez has a $26,000 capital in his capital account, and he sells 1/2 of his interest to, let's make it Tyrell, T-Y-R-E-L-L, for $18,000. Okay? So, Perez has $26,000 in his capital account, right? Let's just call it a he because it just less comfortable. We'll make the other one a she and kind of make it fair. Okay? And he sells 1/2 of his interest in the partnership to Tyrell for $18,000.
Shouldn't that be 13,000? Or
No, he sells it for 18. So what happens is Perez gets 18,000 from Tyrell.
I thought it was 1/2 of his interest.
Well, then it should be it. Yeah, and Michael, I think you got a good question. See if this answers your question. So what happens here now is, let's say this happened on January 4th. What will happen here is H, Perez, comma, capital, will be debited for 13,000, and Tyrell, comma, capital, will be credited for 13. So what happens here is, from the partnership's point of view, here's what happens. Okay, now Perez, his capital account will drop down to 13 because it's,
Why 13?
it's half of 26.
Because he sold half of it.
Because he sold half of it.
Oh,
Now the $18,000 is not a partnership concern.
okay.
The
It goes into his
18,000
pocket.
is between Tyrell and Perez. It's not a partnership concern.
Okay.
Okay, so the only thing that isn't, and Michael, this is getting back to your question, the only thing that is a concern is Perez's capital goes down by 13 because half was sold, and Tyrell gets, his new capital account is 13. And the 18,000 is between two private parties, is not a partnership concern. Okay. Let me give you another example. Suppose Perez says, listen, I went out of the business, but I'd like my daughter. We'll call it, we'll call her XYZ. I'd like her to take my place. If that were the case, and Perez just gave it to her, this is what it would look like from a partnership's point of view. One partner out, another partner in. Okay? And here it was an $18,000 exchange for half. Here there was no money for the whole thing, but this is what it would look like on the partnership's books. Yeah, if Perez bequeathed his capital account to the daughter, we'll make his daughter common capital. Okay? And the no money, 18,000, but all that matters is, okay, so now, so,
Can I ask you a question?
sure,
Not related to the company.
okay.
Those $2,000, what happens to that $2,000 he got extra?
26,000.
Well, he got 18, but he only gave him 13,000 worth of his shares.
It's not a partnership
It's not
concern.
over.
There's
I know,
just
but-
two independent set of books.
He would record it on his own books.
On his own
That
books,
was
on
my
his own
question.
books, it would be 18.
That was my question.
But from but that won't show up in the partnership's books.
It's just-
All right. Okay, now, what can also happen, in fact, let's do this. Let's do exercise 12-7. And all it's going to do is, if you find it on page 499, Now, it'll kind of just repeat what we did, but because there was a couple questions on it, it may be worth repeating, okay? So 12.7, let's take a look here, on 499. So here's 12.7. What it says is, the partners in the biz the partnerships in the business partnership have agreed that partner Mona may sell her $90,000 equity in the partnership, okay, to Seal, for which Seal will pay Mona $75,000. Present the partnership's journal entry to record the sale of Mona's interest. So, Mona has a $90,000 equity. Seal paid Mona $75,000 for her equity. What would the journal entry look like?
Right, it's just the 90.
Let me just put it up here. And the $90,000 is the only concern the partnership has. What transpired between two private parties is not a partnership concern. That's not very good? All right, let me see, excuse me for a second. I did get it written, yeah, it's got it written down. Okay. All right, you guys doing good? Let's go ahead and now, and this is what it looks like when the money exchanges hands between two private parties. Now, what happens if the person who wants to be admitted makes an investment? So in this case, what we have here now is, so now, Terrell what he does is he invests $22,000. Okay. So when he does that, what we have is we have January 4. We have cash is debited for $22,000, and we have Terrell, capital will be credited for $22,000. So what Terrell did is he invested the $22,000, okay, and Terrell will assume that has that much equity in the business. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so let's do this. So now it changes a bit. So what happens on this thing is, okay, this is back to Terrell. So Terrell is going, so this is a separate problem. So now Terrell is going to invest $42,000 for 25% of the partnership. Okay, so what happens here now is the fact that, so what we have here is the fact that the partnership at this point in time, $42,000 is the cash, okay? So what happens here is what we have here is, so at this point in time, the total capital in the business is 78. So the total capital is 78,000. Okay, and so Zane and Perez, together they have a $78,000 investment in the business, right? Stake in the business. We add Terrell's investment of $42,000. Now the total capital has increased to $120,000. And we multiply that times 25%, so 1/4 of the business will now be represented by $30,000. So what happens here is if we have 42 minus 30, it comes out to be 12. And the partnership agreement says that something like this will be divided equally, so that turns out to be 6. Let me show you the journal entry and then we'll talk about it.
Is it 2 or 3? I'm sorry. Because we had Perez and Zane, but we're dividing it by 2? The 12,000?
Right, here, I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so here we go. So now on this one, we have January 4th. Cash will be debited for $42,000. Okay, we have Rashid, capital. We've been calling him Terrell. Let's call it Terrell. Tyrell, capital. His will be debited for 30. And we have Zane, credited, you're right, Z-A-Y-N, okay. His will be credited for 6. And Perez will be credited for 6. And this is what's called a bonus to the old partners. So what happens here, let me kind of go through this slowly, is Terrell says, listen, I want 25% of the partnership, and I'm willing to invest $42,000 for it. Okay? So, here's the previous capital balance together, both Perez and Zane. Here's Terrell's investment, now it's up to 120. 25% of 120 is 30. So Terrell's capital account will be 30. And that means he owns 25% of the business. Because the 30 is 25% of 120, right? But his capital account is less than his investment. So that difference is a bonus to the old partners. And the reason it's 2 is because there's 2 old partners and the agreement says we're going to divide something like this evenly.
That makes sense when you do
Ranger?
journal entry.
Yep. And so, and this is a bonus to the old partners.
And the 78,000 is Zane and Perez's capital added together.
Prior to Terrell's entrance, this is the total capital and there's 2 partners. And I'm saying the same thing, just a different way, okay? And that's called a balance to the bonus to the old partners. And again, perhaps it's a going, it's a going concern, and a going concern is worth more than just investment. And so he's willing to invest this to get a third of the profit, to get a fourth of the profit, and considers it a good deal. Okay, and then it's called a bonus to the old partners. Now, what can happen here is it can work in reverse. So now this would be a bonus to the new partners. So the way this works is now what happens on this thing is Terrell is going to invest $18,000 for 45% of the business. Okay? And this will be a bonus to the new partner. Okay? So, again, the way this works is, now what happens on this thing is you add the 2 together, okay? And so now you invest 18. So here we have the previous capital equity of Zane and Perez equals 78,000 just as it did before. Terrell invests 18. total capital now is 96. Multiply that times 25%. So Terrell will have 24,000 in his capital account. Okay? So he has 24. This will be Terrell's capital. And he invested 18. That means he'll get a $6,000 bonus. Okay? And divide that by 2, because 3,000 will come out of the other, will come out of each cap, it will come out of Zane's, and 3,000 will come out of Perez. So here's the before this investment, here's this investment, here's after the investment. He wants to have 25% of the business. So this will be his capital account, it will be 25% of the capital. Here's his investment. So that means there's a $6,000 bonus to the new partner. And that $6,000 bonus is divided by 2, so 3,000 comes out of each of the old ones. So here's what the journal entry looks like. Okay. So as the journal entry, again, let's say this happens on January 4th. Cash is debited for the 18,000. Okay. Zane, comma, capital is credited, is debited for the 3. Perez, comma, capital is debited for 3. And Terrell, comma, capital is credited for 20.
So it takes it out of Zane and Perez's capital.
Yeah, suppose, just kind of give you a scenario so this makes sense. Let's say that Terrell is like, has a special talent, computer whiz, okay? And he says, listen, I want a fourth of this action, and I'm willing to pay $18,000 for a fourth of the action. Well, a fourth of the partnership, if it's 96, after his investment will be 24,000, right? So this is his capital account, which will be 1/4 of the total capital. And then, here's his investment, so the difference has to come out of the remaining of the old partners. And it's called a bonus to the new partner.
Okay.
And it's when that's when the gaining partner's investment is less than his capital account.
Okay.
And so these guys lose influence and he gains influence,
Yeah.
in effect. That sound good?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Now, let's do exercise 12-8. You'll find that on page 499. And let me do 1 and 2, and you guys do 3. How's that sound? All right? Before I go any further, I just want, some questions came up, right? So Monday, you guys get a chance to shine, right? Okay, the test, all right?
Next Monday? Next Monday?
A week from today, yeah.
Okay.
All right, somebody groaned, was that you? Somebody did. All right, here's the deal. So let's do this. The study guide is in Moodle, just print it. Why don't we go over the study guide as the basis and structure for a review on the first hour of Monday, take a break, and have the test the last hour. And I think that's how I think we should do it. I'm not sure how else to do it, because to go over the study guide on Thursday doesn't make any sense. So that's just Wednesday. It wouldn't make any sense, yeah.
It's too long before the test.
It just doesn't fit, I think, but I think this will work. And by the way, a review right before the test, that sounds wonderful, yeah. Yeah, you won't have a chance to forget it, all right? So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, because we talked about that over the break, so anyway. So let's do this, exercise 12-8. Let me do 1 and 2, and you can turn you guys over for 3. Okay. So here's what it looks like. So here's exercise 12-8. We'll put it over here. here's how it reads. Here's how it reads. Oh, I'm gonna fold this in half so it goes down better. So here's how it reads. The Tweed Partnership has total partnership equity of $510,000, which is made up of Elm Capital $400,000, Oak Capital $110,000. The partners share net income and loss in the ratio of 80% to Elm, 20% to Oak. On November 1st, Ash is admitted to the partnership and is given a 50% interest equity and a 15% share of the income and loss. Prepare the journal entry to record the admission of Ash under each of the following separate assumptions. Ash invests $90,000, $125,000, and $60,000. So, in this case, now in the first one, what we have here, so for the step one, what we have here, in this case, so, all right, so now what we have is we have 510,000, okay, that's the capital prior to Ash, okay, then he invests 90, that means there's a total of 600,000, multiply that times 15%, that comes to 90,000. So his investment equals his percentage after the investment. So in that case, cash will be debited for 90, and Ash, capital will be credited for 90. And it's because his investment exactly equals 15% after his investment. Does that sound about right?
There's no addition.
There's just no bonus to the old partner. There's no bonus to anybody, just because it just works out that it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay? Now on the next one, what he's doing on the next one is, now it's 125,000, again for 15%. So the way this works is, so now, this is 1, it's going to 2. So now we have 510,000 plus 125. So this is before his investment, this is his investment, so after his investment it's 635. Okay. Multiply that times 15%. And his equity will be 95,250. So he's going to invest this amount. This will be his equity, so the difference will be a bonus to the old partners. So if we have 125, let's just put the 125 down. It'll be a negative number, but I think we can all 125,000. So the difference then is 29,750. Now we multiply this times 80%, and that's 23,800, and that's the amount of, that will go into the guy who gets 80%. Let me just, whoever gets Elm, okay, and then we get the 29,750, multiply it times 20%, that comes out to be 5,950. So the journal entry, let's just put it over here so it all fits on one page nice. So cash will be debited for the 125,000, that's the amount of the investment. Ash, capital, will be credited for the 95,250, and here's where I'm getting at. Okay, Elm capital, it'll be credited for the 23,800, so that's a bonus to the old partners, that's his share of the bonus. And then Oak, capital, will be 5,950, and here's where I'm getting at. Does that make sense? You guys okay with that? And so this is a bonus to the old partners. Now, the next one will be a bonus to the new partner, because he's going to invest 60,000, and the 60,000 will be less than the 15%. So I'll go ahead, let me put up a printed copy of this. And why don't you guys do the third part? And here's a bonus to the old partners. And of course, there'll be a bonus to the new partner on the part 3. Let me put it up there. Turn you loose. Guys, I'm going to put this up because I want a chance to have a final review, because I think it really makes it more memorable, and I really try never to keep you guys over. Man, it used to hurt me when I was on your side of the desk. So let me put this up here real quickly, and then I'll go ahead and let's have a quick review. Any questions on that? And I'd like to have a quick review because I think it really makes it more memorable.